Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that got our degree from the University of Uncommon Sense. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings. More available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks.
Woo!
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he doesn't do nighttime laundry, but he's very clean. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't do daytime laundry either. Ahoy! I just throw them out after I wear them.
It makes a lot of sense. Disposable clothing. I love
That's
it.
what rich people do, right? They just throw.
That's right. Rich people just like us.
Yeah.
Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, or whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. Hey, man.
Hey.
It's you and me today, buddy.
I just
two-hander.
Yeah, we got this. I just realized I'm wearing a Saints hat. I got my Saints shirt on, and I didn't even realize, but I grabbed my Saints mug.
Yeah,
it's not even
Sunday.
It's not even Sunday, and I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's a Who Dat day.
I just thought it was your Halloween costume. Your Halloween costume is yourself as a Saints fan.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's exactly what's going on. We've got some movies to talk about. We're going to talk about Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright's new film that is out this weekend in theaters. And then we're going to talk about Copshop, a movie that is out via rental. I don't think it's in theaters. I think it's just something that you can rent.
It's not playing locally, at least that I saw.
Yes, right, correct. But there's been a little bit of buzz about it, so we wanted to kind of check it out and do a review for you guys. And then, of course, we're going to do Best Ever Challenge. We're doing Best Ever Movies with the word last in the title. And there are a few. There are enough to talk about.
It's going to be a
good
show.
And then, of course, we'll do some buried treasure. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. I think we can get right into it. I'm excited to talk about it. Let's talk about, because here's the thing, even before we get into it, here's the thing. Edgar Wright is one of both of our favorite directors. Both of us love Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
His 5 movies up until now are like transcendent favorites of both of us. So
yeah, what do you call it? The hitch list?
The hitch list. That's right. Yeah, 5 movies in a row that are not just good, but absolutely great. And Edgar Wright is one of just a handful, maybe 3 or 4 directors that have ever done that. So yeah, absolutely. We both love him. So let's see what he's doing now. Let's talk about Last Night in Soho. A young girl passionate about fashion design is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters her idol, a dazzling wannabe singer. But 1960s London is not what it seems, and time seems to be falling apart with shady consequences. Last Night in Soho, again, is Edgar Wright's 6th film directing. And he now is going into, is it called Gaio? Kind of like thriller, mystery, horror, murder, like solving kind of genre.
I didn't know that there was a subclass for it.
Yeah, there's a
heard.
horror subgenre that deals specifically with like murder, mystery, thriller, gore. Kind of stuff, I think. But anyways, yeah, so you've got Edgar Wright directing, lots of people doing lots of stuff. What do you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
Well, Aaron, as you said earlier, he is on our hitch list. Like, we absolutely love every single one of his movies he's made so far. And now he comes out with Last Night in Soho. It's okay.
Oh, that's gotta hurt to say for you, doesn't it? Like, yeah, that's kind of one of those things.
I have to say, the reason why I'm saying it's okay is because there are things I love about this movie, but there are things I absolutely hate. And unfortunately, the things that I hate about this movie are the lingering thoughts that I have. And I really wish it was the other way around, where I could just really focus in on the things that I love, because there's a lot to love about it. But the things that I hate, that's what I keep coming back to. What about you? What do you think?
Well, if you enjoy the episodes where Andrew and I disagree about a movie, then you are going to be bored, because I feel exactly the same way you do. Yeah, I would go high side of just okay. There's enough I like about it. There's enough that I do love about this movie that I'm willing to go high side of okay. But like you said, the things I don't like about this movie, I really don't like, and I just think some things don't work. We can start with the positives. I think the easiest place for me to start are the visuals. I think it's his most visually stunning movie.
It's insane how good they are.
It's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Like, it is just like, you know, you hear the phrases like every frame a painting, those kind of things. Like, that's what this movie feels like. Like, you could pause it anywhere, hang it on your wall, and just love it. You know, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's not spoilers. We talked about it, but Thomasin McKenzie's character,
Eloise.
By the way, Thomasin McKenzie is great in this movie, but she kind of goes back in time, or has visions of going back in time and stuff, and like living vicariously through Anya Taylor-Joy's character, you know, and they kind of switch between you seeing the character of Sandy, which is Anya Taylor-Joy, and Eloise, and there are moments where it transitions between the two, and it was so smooth, like I didn't catch it. Like, it's not like it's not like they like, there are moments where like one person will walk off screen and another will walk on screen, but I mean, there are moments where like standing right in front, like dead center of the screen, and it transitions, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see it, but it happened. And it's so good.
And you know, a lot of that is practical, right? Like, you know, like, like if you go watch it back, you can figure the magic trick out, you know, in some ways. Actually, some of the magic tricks this movie does, I couldn't figure out. Some of the stuff with mirrors that it did, I was just like, is that digital, or did they find a way to practically do that? Or,
I have theories on like the mirror stuff. Like, there's for instance, there's one where Anya Taylor-Joy is walking down a stairwell, and then there's like a glass or a mirror wall, and you see Thomasin McKenzie, and I think that's just a straight up like a screen slice. You know, when you have two screens, you know, walking parallel to each other. But man, like you said, there's a dance scene in this movie with Matt Smith, where I'm sure that was all practical, where one would like just like be crouching down and then would just pop up and stuff. It's just the mind-boggling amount of choreography that had to have gone into that is stellar.
Yeah, so those are kind of two separate positives that we've already brought up that we really, really love. One being the visual beauty, and the second being the technical achievement of pulling off those effects, right? Like, you know, and not just that he's pulling off these moments, but there are these small like things that happen where it's like, details. If you're not paying attention, you are not, like, if you have your phone up while you're watching this movie, when you watch it later at home or whatever, you're missing some pretty incredible subtle stuff that's going on, and reflections of car windows, or, you know, different things. Like, the way it's one of those movies that rewards nitpicking, right? Like it's one of those movies where like if you want to try to nitpick the mirror stuff, I think you're gonna fail. Like I think he thought
Too
about
much.
all that stuff. Yeah, like it's pretty crazy how good that, like even moments where she's just like running like really quick by a bunch of mirrors. It is absolutely the other one running in the mirror. Like I love that stuff. I think it's that with the visuals are my two favorite things about this movie is just how clever a lot of that stuff is.
Did you get any Black Swan vibes from this movie?
Sure.
Because I definitely, while I was watching, I'm not saying that it was copying Black Swan. I don't want it to come across as that, but I'm like, oh, I definitely get some, parallel reality kind of, what am I seeing, kind of sublime
what's
in
real, what isn't,
exactly,
all that kind of stuff.
I want to shout out some performances.
Please do.
Obviously Thomas and McKenzie is our lead, and it takes a lot for an actor or an actress to pull off a role like this, so props to her for making it believable, like what this character's going through, the struggles mentally. That's just really good. Anya Taylor-Joy, she has more and more that I see her, she really came into her own, I think, in a Queen's Gambit. With this, not only, her acting prowess, but whenever she walked into a room, the room was hers and everybody else was just privileged to be there, I guess is a good way to say it. Even more so in this movie. Like the first time she walks into that nightclub, in that pink gown, and she's just standing straight up, and like her posture, the way she carries herself, that's
impressive stuff.
It's her room. That's an energy that is very hard to fake.
And when she walks out into the dance floor and she's doing perfect like 60s style dancing, and she just owns the dance floor, just owns the room. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Matt Smith, I haven't seen him do a role like this, I can't think of, where he is just doing... Can we talk about his character at all, or do you think that's spoilerish?
It depends on what... Yeah, I mean, it's going to get spoilerish pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Because there is
I'll just say I haven't seen him do a character like this before.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he had it in him. Yeah, he's got it in him. He does an amazing job with this performance.
Yeah, I think he's great. I think of those that you mentioned, I think Matt Smith and Anya Taylor-Joy are doing great work. I did not connect to Thomas and McKenzie as much as you did. I don't know that it's her fault. I think I was just struggling a little bit with the fact that because the movie is so into its mood, because it's really trying to set this, mystery thriller vibe, that it doesn't give me a lot of points to fall in love with that Thomas and McKenzie character, to be like, oh, I'm so connected to her. Part of that is also that it's hard to use this as a negative because it's definitely purposeful and it serves the movie in other ways. But this is not a funny movie.
No, not at all.
This is, I'm not saying it's humorless. There are a couple moments of levity, really just one or two, and they both come from the same character, a friend character that Eloise meets. But so part of it is expectations, because I know it's Edgar Wright and I know what a great sense of humor he has and how well he incorporates humor into all sorts of genres.
Yeah.
I think expectationally I wanted more humor, more levity, those kind of things. And because I didn't have it, it does kind of feel a little bit like a negative to me. I missed it. Yeah, it was something I missed. And I think it impacted my ability to connect to the protagonist here. And so, obviously that's not going to be an experience that everybody has, but it was definitely an experience I had. So when it came to, wanting her to succeed, wanting her to accomplish her goals without getting spoilery, I was only invested because she was a human being who I was rooting for because she was a human being, not because I was like, oh, Eloise, I love you. Don't, like it was, so there was a little bit of a difference. It was a little drier for me in that way, if that makes sense. I hope I explained that well, but yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about it?
I think it's time. To go into the negatives a little more. Yeah.
The last 20-25 minutes of this movie are absolutely atrocious. It negates so much. The ending of this movie ruins what I thought was going to be a good message about like mental health. Mm-hmm. It got to the point where I don't know what this movie's trying to say.
That's exactly it. It's muddled. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like what's supposed to be like a crazy reveal. I hate doing this, and I don't mean this to sound pretentious or like I'm that good, but it's one of those movies like after you watch, you're like, oh, I could have come up with a better ending than that. Like, can we? I don't know if I know it's just. I know it's just the two of us, but do you mind us doing like a spoiler talk on Last Night Soho? We'll
do some SIF spoil. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think a movie like this requires a SIF spoil. There's just too much that happens, in the last 20 minutes for us not to address it, especially when we're both saying it is the part of the movie that made it, that brought it down. And I agree totally with you. Both points that I heard you make that I also agree with were, number one, the actual mystery thriller part of it isn't anything special. There's not, in fact, I try not to hold it against the movie because I predict something that's going to happen. We've talked about this before, but in this case, it felt like it was the only thing that could have happened. Like it was one of those things where it was like if you do a murder mystery, but you forget to make anybody else a suspect. Like, it's kind of one of those things where I was just like, yeah, this had to be the answer.
I guess that's what I was trying to say, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is Edgar Wright. He's going to come up with something really interesting. So in my mind, I was already, while watching this movie, devising a better solution than the obvious one. But when it came out to be the obvious one, I'm like, oh, I could do better than that. But there is actually a twist in this movie that I really did like. There is a twist in this movie that I really did like.
We will talk about that in the SIF spoil. The other thing that I heard you talking about that I deeply, deeply, deeply agree with is thematically this movie confuses itself towards the end in a way that is almost irreparable. It's probably the worst thing about the movie for me.
It is.
Because, now let's be clear. I think the major theme that's going through this is about nostalgia, right? There's a real theme about the things that I love from the past. I wish I could live there. I wish I could go back to the 60s and live in that era. It looks so amazing. And then I think the movie is trying to make the trauma, the horror be, the past has so much pain in it, so much trauma in it, so many things that you may not understand, right? Yeah. That's fine. That stays fairly consistent, except the movie then starts to do this other thing that has to do with predatory nature. It has to do with, the idea of gender politics, the idea of have things gotten better? Like, it starts to ask questions that are actually interesting, like questions like, has it gotten better? Where has it gotten better? What does it mean that it's gotten better? And then it just doesn't answer those questions. It doesn't attempt to answer those questions. And in fact, kind of kicks those questions to the curb and says, no, we're going to do this other thing that makes all that thinking you were doing null and void. And it's so weird to me. It's so, I think it winks at it at the end, and we can talk about it in the SIF spoil. I think there is a moment that the movie tries to get that back and tries to go back there, but it's already ruined. It's already discarded in a way that I didn't think could be saved. And so it just felt very muddled and confused.
Also, what I don't like is, like, after the movie ended, I was like, just so many unanswered questions about what I thought were going to be vital, elements of the movie. Like, I guess we could say, like, at the very beginning of this movie, Thomasin McKenzie sees a character, I'll just say, like, in a mirror. That's not spoilers to say. But in the very beginning of the movie, she sees, and that is not resolved or spoken about or used in any way, shape, or form in this movie to where I'm like, why is this here?
I think I think I can give you an answer from the filmmaker's perspective in the Sif spoil. I think I know what's trying to happen here, but like, I agree
is it supposed to be
confusing.
an in to like this whole?
Yes, I believe
it's
so.
Poorly done. Poorly done.
I agree. I think it is confused. I think it is not clear as an audience member. I think that could be one of those things that just happens when you've written a story. It's so clear to you what's going on that it's kind of hard to see it with fresh eyes. And yes, I agree with you. For a fresh audience member, I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense what they're doing there. So yeah. But we can talk about it more in Sif Spoil. In fact, I don't have a ton other to say outside of the spoiler stuff, which I think will be important for this. So if you've seen it and want to hear the spoiler talk, we will definitely get into that in a separate
Aaron,
episode in your podcast feed. Yeah,
you're so brave.
Thank you.
You're so brave.
That. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and head into our next review. We're going to talk about the movie Copshop. On the run from a lethal assassin, a wily con artist devises a scheme to hide out inside a small-town police station. However, when the hitman turns up at the precinct, an unsuspecting rookie cop finds herself caught in the crosshairs. I had not heard much about this movie until very recently, when a few people who I know and respect told me I needed to see Copshop, and so we decided to put it on the review list. Gerard Butler, Frank Grillo, and Alexis Louder are the three primary characters that are talked about in the description. Toby Huss coming in for a bite to eat as well. What did you think of Copshop? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay, Andrew?
I liked it. Either straight down liked it or low side of liked it, but definitely liked it. It's in that conversation area.
I'm glad to have this conversation. I think I'm gonna go ahead and tip myself over into the loved it category. It is right on that low side of loved it, high side of liked it for me. I really, really liked this movie, and I'm going to go ahead and say low side of loved it, even.
Fantastic.
I think
you start off then.
I sure do. I'm going to grant some of this to low expectations. I'm going to grant some of this to the fact that these aren't the kinds of movies I usually fall for. And so when I'm enjoying certain parts of what's going on here, when I'm really enjoying some of the character work that's happening here, I think I'm more apt to kind of dial that up a little bit and go, oh, this is fun. This is so cool. This is so great. But a lot of it comes down, I think, to this is a movie where every single person in the movie and putting the movie together understood the assignment. Like, this is a movie that completely gets exactly what it is. And everybody in it is in the same movie getting exactly what this is. From Toby Huss to Alexis Louder to Frank Grillo. Toby Huss is incredible in this.
He steals the movie.
His character, the way that character is written, steals the movie. Like, it's just... And we've seen it so many times before, right? It's not like a new thing when a character comes in and is kind of a little crazy, but, but man, I've just, it's so good. He's so good at it.
I think his levity, this movie isn't bombastic. It's not crazy, but it's tipsy. It's tipsy. It's like, if you're not drunk on excessiveness, it's at least buzzed. It's right on the edge. And I think that the levity that he brings to a movie like this, the way he portrays his character is great. He's easily my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I love Toby Huss. I also immediately have fallen in love with Alexis Louder.
Alexis Louder, absolutely.
I think her character is so good, and is the other primary reason I think I tip over into loved it. I'm not used to, with these types of movies, at least recently, being so clear about what my rooting interest is. Like it is not a movie that falls into the nihilism, I think, of a lot of these types of movies where it's just like a bunch of really cool people, but they're all what the word just slipped my mind, but when your protagonist is also terrible, like it's all like
an
whole genre,
anti-hero?
like an anti-hero. Thank you. It's not like everybody's an anti-hero. There's an actual hero in this movie.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? And that's kind of refreshing. I love that. Like, this rookie cop is the hero. This rookie cop is who I'm rooting for and invested in, and again, we've talked about the fact that it's not like I have to have somebody to root for, but I have to understand at least what the rooting interest of the movie is. And that is so clear here. And even though there is a lot of respect and charisma given to the other characters, I was very clear as an audience member where my allegiance lies. And I think, and I can't overstate how much that meant to me watching this movie, to be able to go, oh, I can enjoy the cool dumb one-liners and the crazy stupid things people are doing in this, because I'm along for the ride and I'm having a good time. And so I kind of got caught up in it. I think it was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Joe Carnahan, who directed this, he's one of my like dark horse directors that I like to keep an eye on, because visually I think he's a really great director. My favorite movie he did was The Gray with Liam Neeson.
Sure. Yes.
But he also recently did Boss Level, also with Frank Grillo. And all these movies that he's doing are very visual, and this is no exception. What I love that he does in this movie is that I think by the end of this movie, I knew the exact layout of this police station. Like, I knew exactly where everybody's desk was. I knew where, I knew my way around. And that sense of familiarity really helps immerse you whenever you're watching a movie like this, because this is a movie that pretty much takes place in a single setting. So whenever you do have that sense of familiarity, it can give you comfort, but at the same time give you anxiety, because where you get a sense of like where points of danger and weakness are, and where like security like is and stuff like that. So the movie does a really good job with that. So I want to definitely give Joe Carnahan some props for that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of that. Where did it lose you? Like, what kind of brings it down a little bit for you?
I would honestly say I would really like this movie, maybe loved it if it's a theme this week for me. The ending, the ending of this movie. I think that here's my problem with the ending. I think the final shootout, as it were. I don't think that the CGI is good at all. Like, there's some fire CGI in this movie that looks like it was copy pasted. But also, I don't feel like it was earned. No, it was earned, but it just didn't feel tonally like it was in the same movie as,
Are you talking about the end ending?
I'm talking about, I'll just say the final shootout.
The final shootout. Okay.
Yeah. Because up until that point, the movie had really, kept, there are moments of high intensity, but it's done through stress and anxiety. Whereas the final shootout just becomes a straight up action movie, And it felt like it was from and for a different movie a little bit, but since I was so familiar with the characters, I was willing to let myself go there for a bit. But it was an uneasy transition, let's just say. Yeah. Also, my biggest problem with this movie, besides the ending, is continuity errors. There are a plethora of continuity errors in this movie where a character will I'm not going to talk about like unlimited ammo and stuff like that, because that's in every action movie. But like the way somebody is holding something, and then in the next scene it's held differently, in a different hand and stuff like that. That's fine. for like a coffee mug or something like that. But when it's something that is like the main focus of the shot, like the way somebody's holding a gun, when it's the main focus of the shot, and then you cut away to another character, and then you cut back, and they're standing in a completely different position, holding something completely different. I'm like, oh, I mean, come on, that's there's a continuity person on set for a reason, So, but yeah, those are really honestly my only two negatives.
I can absolutely see both of those. Lots to address there. I didn't notice as much as the continuity as you did. I'm sure I would. I just wasn't in like my brain. That's not what my brain was doing. For a lot of this movie, I was really into it. And in the same way, I think there is this beautiful thing that can happen when you have kind of given yourself to a movie where you just quit caring about that stuff. Like, and that's, that sounds like a bad thing, but I'm telling you, no, that's the beauty
that's
of
a
movies.
good thing. Yeah.
The beauty of movies is that that these incredibly dumb, convenient things keep happening to these people, and you just don't care because you're just having so much fun. And like,
what do you think 80s action movies lasted as long as they did?
Right,
just because
you
didn't care.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger could throw a man with one arm 50 feet. You didn't care. It was cool.
Now, I will say it doesn't mean that there isn't a better version where those things are taken with a little more care and those kind of things. That makes for an even better movie. What I'm saying is the magic of film so many times is I have been taken to this world that I am just enjoying the adventure of being in and seeing what's going to happen next. And I'm not worried about all that little nitpicky stuff, that is to me the beauty of film, is that can it do it? They can do that. And in fact, the movies where I am like noticing all the nitpicky stuff, it's because the movie is not compelling me in a way that my mind can wander to that stuff, right? So I'm totally with you. I'm sure there is a lot more continuity stuff that I would notice if I were watching this in detail, for instance, to send it for a certain YouTube channel. Like there is, there's certainly stuff that you can take this movie to task for. But as far as the ending goes, what I liked about it was that I felt like the characters, at least, were making decisions I understood. And I don't mean that in a way that like their decision making was good. What I mean that is I was never confused by like what they were doing, where they were going, what they were trying to do. And it was interesting.
Frank Grillo.
Yeah, maybe this will help clear up what I'm talking about. I found it interesting that you mentioned like unlimited ammo, because I actually think this movie deals in many scenes with the fact that ammo does run out, and you have to find a new gun, and you have to find a new way to stay safe. There are large portions of the shootout that we're calling at the end that don't involve any shooting because it just can't. So I thought this movie actually played with that really well.
There are some guns that have two magazines taped to each other, one upside down so they can easily transition. And I counted like 4 times that exact same combo was turned upside down. I'm like, turning it upside down doesn't refill the bottom magazine.
I thought they pulled other magazines. I could be wrong about that. You're probably right. I wasn't paying too close of attention to it.
I could be wrong too, but it's things like that I'm like, oh, I'm watching a movie. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this isn't a movie that really fully, like you don't get lost in it by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to give people that impression, but there are moments like that where you're like, it just takes you out for a split second, and then you can get back in. That's that's a nitpicking negative, by the way.
Sure, of course. Did you feel like the very end of this movie was sequel baiting or just landing the theme of the movie?
Landing the theme of the movie.
I don't think landing the theme, but
I don't think this is sequel baiting at all. I think that this is very much in the realm of like Lucky Number 11, the way that that movie ends with them playing the Kansas City Shuffle as like a callback, And I love the end, or the very, very end of this movie where they're like in the car and stuff like that and singing and stuff. I'm like, I'm digging this,
I agree.
That itself just adds to the style of this movie, that it's not going to take itself too seriously.
Not going to take itself too seriously, and yet at the same time is definitely, I think, trying to say something. You know, it's trying to say something about the ongoing battle between good and evil, right? It's trying to say, you know, it's not always crystal clear, but there's definitely a right and wrong. And this movie has really interesting ways of discussing that, really interesting ways of showing that. You know, many times movies will deal with in like the levels of wrong. Like, yeah, this person's bad. This is anti-hero 101, right? This person's bad, but whoa, this person's really bad. So we're going to root for, you know, and this movie is like, yeah, let's talk about that discussion. Let's think about that. And it gives you several levels of what it means to have integrity, what it means to be selfish, you know, and it is definitely something that this movie is trying to do, which again, for me, you know, it's hard for me to even say I love a movie if it doesn't have a little bit of that. And so I was glad to see the movie really kind of working in those ways.
Yeah, there's some amazing shots where they're in the holdings section of the movie where Alexis Louder's character is like, I think the camera's like panned like over her shoulder. You can see Frank Grillo on one shoulder and you can see Gerard Butler on the other, and it's kind of like that angel and devil on your shoulder sort of thing going on there. And you know, I think what the movie does great, and it's what you're talking about, and it's why it reminded me, is because in those moments you don't know which one's the angel and you don't know which one's the devil.
Right.
You know, and there's even you know, the ongoing, you know, the metaphor in this movie of you are only one day ahead of the devil, you know, like those kind of moments. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of interesting going on. Another thing I like about the Alexis Louder character, which was Valerie Young, is that she was only a rookie in name. You know,
right.
She was a rookie to the force and maybe to that precinct, but she had proved herself. She was in the military. So it's not one of those movies where the rookie, you know, suddenly becomes a BA and they're able to take on, you know, hordes of villains and stuff. You know, she was certified from the beginning to know what she's doing, you know. So I really like that.
Yeah, I fell in love with her pretty quickly, but I will tell you where this movie just locked me in. There's a scene where she is holding somebody at gunpoint and they have some words with each other. And, you know, I think he says something about, you know, her being shaky or something.
Your hands are shaking, yeah.
Your hands are shaking. And her response just locked me. And I was just like, oh, I'm digging. I love this character. Like, let's do this. Like, let's see where this goes. And there were several of those moments, but that was the one where I was like, yep, I'm in, let's go. And,
if I need somebody to protect me, I know who I'm calling. I'm calling Alexis Louder. Not Valerie Young, the character. I'm calling Alexis Louder. I think she can handle herself too.
All right, I want to talk about one other thing, and this can be my one last thing. If you have something else you want to talk about, that's fine as well. And I will say, in bringing this up, the intent is not to go into any of the details or thoughts or assumptions on the actual thing that happened itself, because that's not what we do here. But I will say this is the first movie I've watched since gun safety has been such an issue in Hollywood since the tragedy that happened on the film Rust.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to shake that. It was hard for me not to be thinking in my mind questions like, I wonder if they're using live blanks here. I wonder if, you know, they are, you know, what they are doing, how they're, you know, protecting each other. There's even a scene early on where two characters pretend, you know, to shoot each other with unloaded guns. And I'm just like, you know, what is this, you know, what is this saying about gun culture? What is this saying about the, you know, those ideas? I just wondered if you had any of that, if that ever hit your brain. I just know since those events have happened, this was the first time I was like, oh man, like having to process, you know, just the need for that safety and maybe changing our opinions on how guns are even portrayed, you know?
I don't want numb to be the word I use, but
desensitized.
Yeah, I can only think of, besides Brandon Lee, because that's where after this the effects happened with Alec Baldwin and Rust and stuff like that. I don't know if that's This is really hard. I didn't expect this question.
Well, you don't. No. And I'm not putting anybody on trial. Did you order the code red, Andrew? No, that's not what's going on.
Darn right, I did. No, I think I'll say this. I don't want it to come across as me saying that I feel numb or desensitized.
Okay.
It's horrible what happened, but at the same time, I don't want what I'm about to say to come across as like people who are in charge of like gun safety and stuff on sets and movies and stuff like that aren't highly trained and very, very careful, because I can only think of really Brandon Lee and what happened on the set of Rust. I mean, like it's the fact that it's only happened a few times with as many action movies as we've had, like big action movies with guns shooting live, blanks and stuff like that, that it's only happened a few times. I don't want it to be one of those a few bad apple kind of things. I don't want that to be like how what I'm saying is portrayed. Sure. Yeah, it's horrible, but at the same time, when I'm watching a movie, I kind of tune out like what's happened in the world, for the most part. Yeah. Sometimes I'll be like, ooh, that's some bad taste for the times that we're living in, but
yeah.
No, that was me saying a whole bunch of nothing right there. So
no, it's fine. I think I understand what you're saying. I think for me, what makes it, difficult is you ask the questions like, okay, even if it is just one or two, which I'm not sure. I haven't done that research, how many injuries happen. I know those are the most two prominent deaths that have happened in that way, but I'm sure there have been others that we don't know about. But you start to ask, okay, if we have a better way to do this, why aren't we just doing it that way? Why aren't we just doing muzzle flashes in post and that kind of stuff, and just using airsoft and that kind of stuff? And I actually recently talked to someone who is a stunt coordinator, and they had already made that decision a long time ago. They were like, we just use airsofts when we do action movies. We just put stuff up in post, and it's kind of one of those things where, for me, the reason the real world kind of invades my brain in these moments is because it becomes so much more real when something in the real world happens, and then I'm forced in my own brain to kind of wrestle with it, and so it just kind of invades. So I was just kind of curious about that. It's not something that obviously either you or I have any say in. It's not something that we have any answers about. But it's just kind of me expressing just kind of some of my own thoughts and feelings in watching this stuff, and just trying to figure out what that means to me watching movies. Is it a negative? Is it is it something that's going to linger? I don't know. It seemed like something worth mentioning because
it's definitely prevalent, and it's definitely what a lot of people, especially in the entertainment business, are talking about right now. Like, where do we go from here?
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, this janitor / woodworker from Missouri doesn't have the answers for you people, but
That's right. Yeah.
Totally. But no, I don't. What I was really trying to say is I don't want what I was saying to come across as like I didn't care or it wasn't important.
Well, can I tell you what I heard you say? What I heard you say was we should also be in addition to being more careful and being aware and doing whatever it takes to make sure people are safe, that we should also be like, how amazing is it that people have been safe enough that this hasn't been
that's what I was trying to say.
Occurrence. Yeah. Like that's what I heard you saying was we should also give some love to armors and set people who have sets that are locked down and are safe, and everybody knows what's going on. It does not sound like that was the case here, but props, no pun intended, to the people who have that stuff locked down. So yeah, absolutely. All right, I think unless you have anything else about Copshop, I think we can
no post-credit scene for either movie.
True. That's true. Let's move into the best ever challenge. Before we do, though, just a thanks to our amazing SIF Pop members. You make this show happen. We could not do it without you. If you've ever been curious about what membership is, what it looks like, you can check that out at patreon.com/SiftPop. There are different levels that you support what goes on here at SIF Pop at. And then as a thank you, we kind of give you little perks, little fun things. And one of those is a bonus podcast every week. This week we did an actual sift sort for Edgar Wright films. We agreed on 1 through 5, not including Last Night in Soho, which we both will now throw on the end of that list, obviously.
Yeah.
You can check that out at patreon.com/siftpop. Lots of fun stuff there. And to those who already support, means the world to us. Thank you. We genuinely appreciate you. All right, let's move into the best ever challenge. Best ever movies with the word last in the title. We will go number 5 to number 1. What do you got at number 5, Andrew?
I am going to go with The Last King of Scotland.
Nice. I had that in my honorable mentions. Yeah, it's a good choice.
It's an interesting movie. Obviously, Forrest Whitaker is just chewing scenery here, and he's doing such an amazing job. It's a rough movie to get through because, you know, where you start off with his character, you're like, oh, is he going to be the one who brings like this country out of the darkness, you know? And then you realize like halfway through, oh no, he's just going to be like every other dictator who promised change, but then just wanted the power and became really paranoid. And that paranoia mixed with power is a dangerous combination. But it's a beautiful movie, beautifully shot. The color tones that movie uses a lot of orange and reds and stuff. It's great.
Nice. Good choice. Good choice.
What you got? 5.
I'm going to go ahead and give some background of just kind of what's been going on in my brain here the last few seconds. I have on my list a movie called The Last Vermeer. And just realized this is not a movie I have seen. I was thinking of Tim's Vermeer, which is this incredible documentary about how the painter Vermeer made their paintings. I was like, oh, that's cool. I forgot about them. So like I was looking at a list of movies that have last in it, and I saw The Last Vermeer, and I was like, oh, I love that documentary. That's amazing. Nope, this is a Guy Pearce movie that I've never seen. So anyhow, I'm in real time adjusting my number 5 to number 1. So I think I'm going to throw at number 5, Raya and the Last Dragon. I really enjoyed this movie. Yes, it is the same formula Disney has used in so many of their movies, but they use it because it works. And I had a really good time with Raya and the Last Dragon. So that's
100% agree.
100%.
I think out of all the Disney movies I've seen, that has like the best choreographed fight scenes. Like the choreography in that movie is like stellar. It's so good. Yeah, it barely missed my list, but really good pick.
All right, let's go to our number 4s. What do you got?
Might get trumped. I'm gonna go with The Last of the Mohicans.
No, I had that in my honorable mentions as well.
Okay. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah, There you go. And it's a Michael Mann movie. I love Michael Mann. I think that the way he tells stories, whenever you like look at like obviously one of my favorite movies his is Collateral. The way the film grain he uses, or The Insider is another great example of this. He's just a great visual director, and the openness of this. I felt like I was transported back into the 1700s, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
but it does fall into that. I have a couple on my list, I'm not going to lie, of movies like this where it's about a culture of people where they just put a white person in that culture. But it's actually, it makes sense. It makes sense, but it does feel forced.
Yeah.
But I do love this movie. The soundtrack is so good too. Oh, the soundtrack is so good.
Well, speaking of racial issues, my number 4 is The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see this one. I
still haven't seen this, but I really want to.
It's really good. It's really, really good. It's just one of those movies where the world just feels like, you want to see what's going to happen with these human beings. Like there's nothing spectacular about it in any kind of, mystery, magical kind of way. It's just like, tell me this story. I'm so involved, and it's meaningful. It's powerful. It's good stuff. So, check out The Last Black Man in San Francisco if you haven't got a chance to yet. On to our number threes. What do you got at number 3?
Actually, this is where I have The Last Duel. We just talked about this movie a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
I obviously I said I loved it, and I think it's the best movie of the year so far. You call it the Rashomon technique of telling the same story from different perspectives. Yeah. I think that is done beautifully in this movie, beautifully in the sense that whereas a movie like Hero is done vibrant and colorful and majestic, this is told from a different sense of like cold, bleak, things that you really wouldn't attribute to beauty, but it's beautiful in the way it's done. Performances are great. The more I think about it, the more this movie is really rising up on my list. So
nice. The Last Duel.
Yep.
My number 3 is The Last Temptation of Christ. In at number 3.
Also just missed my list.
This is it's just such an incredible film, and it's buoyed by the fact, in many ways, because of my upbringing, there was a huge boycott of this movie because of some of the things that Jesus does in the movie, and just a complete misunderstanding of what the movie is doing with those things. That that it is Jesus thinking about what it would have been like to be a different kind of man, a different kind of human, those kind of things, while he's on the cross being crucified. And I think this is fascinating stuff to think about, fascinating stuff, that Scorsese is doing here. It's a powerful film. Absolutely, Last Temptation of Christ. Definitely
unlike any other movie Scorsese's made.
Sure. Well,
maybe what was the movie he just did with
Silence.
Andrew Garfield? Silence.
Yeah, Silence. I was going to say it's very much.
Forgot that he did Silence. So yeah,
his other movies have those. It's obvious he is wrestling and figuring out a lot of his own religious upbringing and what it means to him and all that kind of stuff. Even in his other movies, other than Silence and Last Temptation of Christ, you can see a lot of those threads throughout. So yeah, there you go. What's your number 2?
It'll get Trump, but Last Crusade.
Yeah. My number 2 will not get trumped.
I know exactly what you're. I know what it is.
Guarantee you, it won't get trumped.
Okay, let's do it.
My number 2 is The Last Jedi. We've had this conversation many times. I think it is incredible, and I will never forget coming out of that press screening, and we both had very, very strong opinions that we thought the other one was having the same strong opinion, and they are completely opposite opinions. And we did not know that we were mirroring pop culture at large. We did not.
Aaron, you and I are the catalyst for
patient zero. We were patient zero for The Last Jedi Wars, and we didn't even know it. But yeah, I love Last Jedi, so it's
funny.
2.
Whenever I think about The Last Jedi, I don't think about the movie. I think about you and me and that awkward drive back. That's what I come.
Wait, are you serious? You seriously hated it? That was like the greatest movie ever, and you're like, wait, you seriously loved that movie? That was terrible.
Yeah, we thought we were doing bits to each other.
Yeah.
It's great. All right. So
number 1s, what do you got?
Well, I know you're number 1, obviously, but I'm going to go with The Last Samurai.
Okay. Yeah, talk about it.
Like I said, this is another white guy thrown into a culture he's not from. But this is more like Dances with Wolves, not like he's still himself.
He's not playing somebody. Correct. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
You're correct. Right. He's not culturally appropriating as the character. It's more just the involvement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think in Last of the Mohicans, Daniel Day-Lewis's character was like an orphan that was picked up by the Mohican tribe.
Yeah.
I think, but it's very like washed over in the rest of the movie to where you don't, if you're not paying attention. But in Last Samurai,
if people are going to talk more about these movies, they're probably talking less about cultural appropriation and more about like white savior kind of stuff. That's more of what the conversations that would happen.
And I think honestly that's where Last Samurai like stands above the rest, because I don't think that we are supposed to look at Tom Cruise's character as the white savior, because if anything, he is the one being saved. He's coming to this this village, and he's got PTSD. He's an alcoholic, and by the time the movie gets to the end, he's fighting with the samurai not because he's like he feels like he's destined to be a samurai or something like it. He's grateful, he's like, these people, like, they've given me peace, they've given me so much. If I can do something for them, this is what I want to do. Ken Watanabe is insane in this movie, how good he is. The Katsumoto character is just a walking like a prophet almost. Like, everything he says is wise, and like it's great. I absolutely love this movie. Hans Zimmer score, obviously one of the best. Last Samurai, it's pretty close to, it's in my top 20 movies of all time, so there we go.
Nice.
And of course, here we come
Indiana
to it. You have chosen wisely, Aaron.
Yes. Second week in a row, I've had this movie pretty high on the list.
Me too.
So, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Just go back in your podcast feed, search for the last week's best ever challenge, and hit replay. Because it's my favorite Indiana Jones movie, aside from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which we said last week. Of course. As well. So of course that's always number one.
Yeah.
All right. What about honorable mentions? I have a couple left. Did you have any left?
Well, you took a couple of mine. The only one that I would throw out is a movie I the more and more, because I just rewatched it recently, and I realize now this movie is just totally misunderstood. And that's The Last Action Hero.
Yeah, I had my honorable mentions as well. Yeah.
I mean, like, the meta-ness that this movie, like, the level of meta-ness that this movie is going on is like, this is it's a beautiful, not beautiful, it's a beautifully funny movie, but also like the pain and stuff, like the real world, like it's talking about like what we use movies to do, and that's to escape, and it's kind of like a wake up call. Like, you got to wake up eventually, so.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely had Last Action Hero as well. I also mentioned The Last Starfighter, which I think is a fun movie.
Yeah.
And then Last Flag Flying, which I don't know if you ever got a chance to get around to see that one, but Last Flag Flying, it's pretty powerful, pretty good, probably worth watching just for the cast alone. I mean, you've got Cranston, Lawrence Fishburne, Steve Carell, all hanging out and doing pretty good stuff together. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I thought worth putting on the list. Last Flag Flying. All right, brings us to our buried treasure, Andrew. I will let you go last on this one. I recently saw one of, I think I have two remaining movies on my Spielberg list of shame, and I knocked one of them off, and that would be The Color Purple. So finally got around to seeing The Color Purple. It is available to stream on HBO Max if you want to check it out. I kind of went back and forth on this one. It's interesting because I think overall I really, really liked it, or I actually wouldn't probably be talking about it in Buried Treasure. I really enjoyed it because I think the highs are really, really good. I'm not sure every choice Spielberg makes here is exactly right, but I do know when this movie hits its big moments, they are big moments. This is in case you don't know anything about it, it deals with racial relations in the early 1900s and the idea of what it meant to kind of break out of that circle, and especially poverty and how that impacts a lot of those kind of things. And man, I really, really thought it had some powerful things to say and said those things powerfully for the most part. There are just times where I'm just like, I'm not sure I need this scene, or I'm not sure you're exactly, approaching this one right, or those kind of things. It shows its age a little bit in some places because this was mid 80s. when
85.
this came out. So yeah, Color Purple, I think definitely worth a watch. Check it out on HBO Max if you haven't seen that. And Spielberg knows how to make movies. At the end of the day,
I think so.
You're gonna see something cool.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you?
Well, Aaron, as you know, I'm going to be going through my list of shame through the years. We are going all the way back to the year 1992. The LA riots had commenced. The Mall of America opened its doors. Hurricane Andrew had hit the U.S. I turned 6 years old, and a little ditty of a movie was released called Sneakers.
Nice. You've never seen Sneakers before, huh?
No, I hadn't, but I've heard you talk about it, and I've heard other people talk about it. I didn't. What I thought was initially going to be like a pre-Ocean's 11 sort of thing.
Okay, sure.
Quickly, because you just have this Rat Pack, squad of misfits and stuff like that. Quickly turned into something new and different after you realize, oh, they're not really like robbers. They rob, but also like as a security, like here's where the flaws in your security and stuff are.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what the movie's going to be about. And then the movie changes again, and it turns into a what would you call it? A kind of a noirish, like
sure.
Who are the people at the top. Obviously, I knew the twist coming, about one of the characters fairly early on. But I'll just say this. The more and more of the movies I watch, the more I realize Brad Pitt is just a young Robert Redford. It's the way both of these guys carry themselves, and they kind of look similar too. But their charm and charisma is very similar. It's almost uncanny. I know they did Brad Pitt and Robert Redford did a movie like 10, 20 years ago that was decent. It was fine. But I really like this one. I love Sidney Poitier in this. He's great. Dan Aykroyd's just goofy. And I had his name on the top of my head. I should have had it pulled up here. Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I wanted to give a shout out to David Strathairn, because I think that he is just super good in this movie. Whistler. And then, of course, you have River Phoenix. Yeah, Whistler. I love everybody's nickname, too. Dan Aykroyd's mother. I mean, it's just fun like that. Yeah, I actually had a really good time with this one. And it's one of those movies where I didn't know what I was going into, and every step of the way, when I just got comfortable with something, it was good transitions from one genre film to the other. I liked it.
Well, now you know everything about Sneakers. There are no more secrets.
No more secrets
for Andrew on this one. I mean, I could talk about Sneakers all day long. Love this movie. What a cast! You didn't mention James Earl Jones or Ben Kingsley. Even Stephen Tobolowsky shows up. For a cup of coffee. Timothy Busfield. This is a lot of fun. So yeah, check out Sneakers if you haven't seen it. It is good stuff.
Timothy
Stephen
Busfield. I meant Timothy Busfield. He plays kind of the same character in every single one of his movies.
Sure.
Just that schemy, he has that smile on his face. You're like, you're up to something, and I can't trust anything you're ever. And he was the same in West Wing. He was like that, especially in Field of Dreams, But he's good at what he does.
Definitely good at what he does. In the live chat, they're asking which is the only remaining movie on my Steven Spielberg list of shame.
Jurassic Park.
Just Jurassic Park. No, it is not. Do you know what? What would be your actual guess be, Andrew?
Amistad.
No, I've seen Amistad. It makes sense.
Is it earlier or later in his career?
That's what I was going to say. It makes sense when you realize that I came to movies late, and so a lot of stuff that's on my list of shame is going to be from before 1990. So
Jaws.
Yeah. No, I have seen Jaws. No, it's Empire of the Sun. I
haven't even seen Empire of the Sun.
So that would be the only one that I have not seen yet. So. I'm sure I'll be checking it out soon as I kind of work my way through my list of shame. And I'm like 2 years away from Empire of the Sun, so we'll get there.
Oh, Empire, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I really want to. This was like one of Christian Bale's like first movies.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We did it. We did a podcast, Andrew. Just you and me, buddy. We talked about some movies and such.
Proud of you.
Thank you. Proud of you as well. Thank you so much for joining us today for the podcast. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out today.
Thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you to Drew for putting together visuals for the show. Appreciate that.
Yeah, buddy.
And much love and gratitude to our SIF Pop members for helping us out as well. Again, if you're interested in becoming a SIF Pop member, you can do that at patreon.com/SIFPop. Support starts at $3 a month and lots of fun thank you perks there from us to you. So check that out again at patreon.com/SIFPop. Lots of ways you can connect with us. You can leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you might listen. You can also email us at feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than ordering a Vesper at your local bar. We will be back next week with a little movie called The Eternals.
Little indie film. Needs help.
Little indie film from this new upstart company called Marvel. We will see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for everybody hanging out in the video chat. I saw Jay
Brian
Bourgeois
Wynn
and
Jay
Lolly in there.
Bourgeois.
Saw Brian. Yeah.
Mark
Jagged,
Thug
Mark,
Beats.
Thug Beats hanging out
Phil
as well.
Sousa.
I believe it's salsa.
Salsa.
It's like salsa without
salsa.
the A.
Oh, Phil Salsa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lollipop. Hey, Lollipop.
Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're going to record some spoilers now for the movie this week. So if you want to hear the Last Night in Soho spoilers, just make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. And, they'll pop up in your feed. Bye.